Check out the Fully Ramblomatic merchandise in our Second Wind store. There's t-shirts, stickers, pins, a fully posable magnet of mead you can put on your fridge, dishwasher, or meth lab. Go to shop.secondwindgroup.com and check it out. The trouble with one-of-a-kind things is that there's only one of them. Well, that's going in the opening sentence Hall of Fame, Yahtzee. Shut up! Seriously, consider the plight of the parent who takes a starry-eyed child to Mount Rushmore, and then when they say, "Gosh, I enjoyed seeing stone representations of presidents' heads, when can we look at some more?" has to say, "I'm sorry, darling, that's all the stone presidents' heads that exist." Well, assuming the current one doesn't have some mass-produced and repurposed as currency. Oh, the audible breaking of that child's heart, confronted for the first time with the realization that all glory is ephemeral. Now imagine that child growing up, playing and really enjoying, let's say for the sake of example, Disco Elysium. Boy, that was thought-provoking, creative and intelligent. I'd sure like to play some more games like that. What on earth are we supposed to say to that poor little bastard? Well, here comes Esoteric Ebb going, "Oh boy, it's my ticket to the big leagues." Hang on, what about Planescape Torment? That was an intelligent isometric writing heavy RPG, just in a D&D setting. Boy, that was a good game. Kinda wish there'd been another one of those too. And then Esoteric Ebb goes, "Oh boy, 2 tickets to the big leagues in one day!" In brief, Esoteric Ebb is an indie isometric CRPG that is, some might say, unashamedly knocking off Planescape Torment and Disco Elysium, like it lists them as inspirations in the credits and everything, just under the Office photocopier. From Planescape Torment, we take the D&D setting and starting with the main character waking up on a mortuary slab in a large circular room, and from Disco we take pretty much everything else. We're an adventuring detective investigating a murder in a story isolated to a single city, and all of our RPG stats have their own personalities with which we converse in internal dialogues. The main difference being that instead of having annihilated our own personality with substance abuse, the protagonist of Egotistic Egg has annihilated their own personality by being annihilated, and we've been resurrected thanks to D&D magic. We are the Cleric, the lowest ranking enforcer of the local religious authority, tasked to get to the bottom of the mysterious bombing of a tea shop in a fantasy city, as well as who killed us to prevent us reaching the truth, against the backdrop of the city being abuzz in the run-up to the first democratic election, where virtually every character is in part defined by their party affiliation. And the competing parties are about what you'd expect. There's the ultra-right-wing nationalists, the pro-business libertarians, and there's the nice lovely party that wants to make things better for the poor and the working man, and who are obviously not going to fucking win. The ongoing theme of Estonian Elbow is taking the complex philosophy and political debate of Disco Elysium and pushing it through the filter of magical fantasy adventures. It reminds me of Balatro, in that it innovates by taking something that started out as an evolution or satire of a thing, card battlers in Balatro's case and role-playing games in Disco's case, and pulls it back towards the original thing. So while Disco's anthropomorphized RPG stats all represent aspects of a complex real-world personality, electrochemistry, conceptualization, composure and all that, Electric Edna brings that concept back to the classic D&D 6. And what's conceptually hilarious right off the bat is that even your fucking stats in this game have got their own political affiliations, like strength is a blatant fascist and dexterity is a Weasley libertarian. Intelligence, I think, aspires to be some kind of world-conquering evil genius, which as a dedicated cryptic crossword enjoyer makes me feel slightly called out. The writing is obviously the strong point of Enigmatic Echidna, the setting is well realised, this semi-industrialised fantasy city built around a mysterious ancient pillar, like diverse multicoloured pubes around a nurturing patriarchal todger, that's also sitting on the inevitable D&D multi-layered horror dungeon, which the townspeople acknowledge the way people in the real world do potholes and aggressive swooping magpies. And this is where the game stumbles a bit. With the aspiration to be an interactive D&D campaign as well as a disco-style detective adventure, the game is obliged to sprinkle in some thrilling monster and trap encounters to simulate the moment the DM is concerned the players are about to fall asleep face down in the Doritos, but there aren't really any combat mechanics, or indeed any mechanics at all besides dialogue trees and random stat checks, so you'll be blundering down a dungeon corridor when the game will go, "Oh shit, a roper! Oh shit, do I survive? No! Reload! Oh shit, do I survive? No! Reload! Oh shit, do I survive? Yes, you did that time. Right you are." Then you heal up with short rest spells and the 900 apples and mushrooms you've picked up, and with bugger all changed and no lessons learned, you merrily march on, straight into a fucking gelatinous cube. Start again. And none of this is adding much to the core experience, because the core experience lies in the dialogue and the characters, and there's not much of a debate to be had with the gelatinous cube, unless you count ow, 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 Jesus Christ, let me out, ow. On that front, while the actually sentient characters can sometimes lean a bit archetypal, as could be expected in a setting and time when everyone's wearing their politics on the sleeves of their puffy Renaissance fair doublets, there are plenty of fun and unique personalities to interact with, and I enjoyed the way the game explores how the existence of magic messes with the complexities of law and society in a realistic industrialized setting. I mean, I played D&D. Adventure is Nigh Season 5 coming soon, Mortimer fans. questions, and I recall once bringing up with my colleagues while high on Mountain Dew and laptop fumes that if you can resurrect dead people with sufficiently valuable reagents, then why don't a bunch of wizards set up a life insurance company and laugh all the way to the ethereal plane or whatever? And it was gratifying to see questions like that being addressed in the dense world building of egregious erotica. I suppose the final question is how Eddie the Eagle Edwards ultimately compares to Disco Elysium, because if you're going to roll up and piss in the same urinal as a game like that, you're going to need a very big willy, or at least one with an interesting enough shape to spark conversation. And on that front, it must be said that Extreme Emasculation Event is a lot smaller and a lot less clever. I mean, spoiler alert, it ends with the protagonist visiting an astral realm and getting everything explained to them by God, which is the go-to plot device for a DM who has to hastily wrap up because his mum just honked her horn outside. At the breakfast table of culture, it is the teenager eating pancakes next to Disco Elysium's stern dad, reading his serious newspaper with his manly porridge with salt in it and everything. But I'm sure there are a lot of people who might prefer the company of the former, who found themselves intimidated by Disco Elysium's scope and the way its pipe vibrates as it reads a particularly salacious article. And if that's you, and you prefer something shorter and snackier with goblins in it, and that's generally a softer place to land, then you might well enjoy Esoteric Ebb. There's a certain gratification in seeing democracy working in a fantasy setting. Actually, let me correct that slightly. There's a certain gratification in seeing democracy working somewhere.